Forget you.
Of course, we are talking Muppets right as we go live.
I was
Welcome,
thinking, like,
everybody.
Gonzo's relationship with the Muppets always confusing.
Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of VOX VOMITUS. I am your host, Jennifer Ann Gordon, the author of Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent, as well as the Hotel series and Pretty Ugly. Joining me today, as always, is my VOX VOMITUS vixen, Allison Martine, author of the Bourbon books, which includes Dibs Since September and Move on Melinda. With us today, we have very newly published Renée Branum here to talk about her book, Defenestrate, which came out yesterday.
That's right.
It's brand new. It's a brand new book, baby. So welcome, Renée.
And congrats.
And congrats.
Oh, yes, thanks for having me.
We know that publication day is like insane, and it's like this like roller coaster, and you feel like elated one minute, and then the next minute you're like, I know I'm a failure. From like 1 minute to the next. Or at least that's what I go through. What is your day after publication like? How are you feeling today?
Yeah, it's still really surreal. I mean, that's the word, I think, where it's just like, what sort of bizarro Alice in Wonderland have I fallen into, where like my dreams are actually coming true. So, but yeah, no, I'm very excited still. I had a very chill pub day yesterday.
I half expected you to be sitting there with a flask and half hungover from this celebration, and that would have been totally on brand considering what happens in your book. But thank you for being sober for the interview. We appreciate that too.
I got a Manhattan, so not.
Yeah, I just have hard seltzer, but I threw some cherries in it.
Yeah, mine's just water.
It's a cool water.
I'm trying to be good, hydrate and all that. But it's hard to drink that. Look at this thing; it's bigger than me.
So Renée,
mushrooms on there?
Is it mushrooms?
No, it's flat. Mushrooms would be on brand, but Jen wouldn't do an interview with me if I was drinking something like mushrooms. She'd be
whimsical, cute mushrooms I'm fine with. It's the texture of real mushrooms.
You don't eat the bottle.
Renée, tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your book.
Yeah. So I'm from the Midwest. I'm from a little town called Carbondale, Illinois. It's like it's like a college town surrounded by just rural, rolling hills. And I went to the Iowa Writers Workshop and got an MFA in fiction. And I also have an MFA in nonfiction from the University of Montana. I've lived in every region geographically in the U.S. except the Northeast. I only did like a summer in the Northeast.
And that's where I am.
You are, yeah. Well,
I've also lived in Ohio.
Okay, well, good.
When were you in the Southwest-ish region near me in California?
Yeah, I lived in Phoenix for a year after my MFA in Montana was done. So it was different.
It was like living in an oven.
It was hot. Yes. It was just, sprawling, big sprawling city. But the desert is gorgeous. Yeah. The landscape is so beautiful.
It looks like another planet. Like the one time I've been to the desert, I was just like, wow, this is really surreal.
Look, it's a great stand-in for Mars whenever you need it.
Yes.
Totally. Yes. So where does that leave us? Oh, and I'm getting my PhD currently in Cincinnati. So that's what brought me back to the Midwest.
Renée needs all the degrees.
I know. I was going to say you're collecting degrees.
I think I just learned at some point that graduate school is like something I can do. I can write and do it at the same time. So I've just been running the gambit of
Yeah, I didn't know if maybe you got somehow addicted to like school.
Oh, I know people who do that, who are like just working their way through degree after degree, and some of them are terminal, so then they've got to hop over, and others they just keep going on up. And
yeah, in some ways it like is easier to get a teaching job, and like it pays better if you go through a master's program.
Yeah.
So like I was like, why not have like the writing community and go to workshop with my pals and get beers after and have that and teach on the side. So yeah, it's been.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Were you working on Defenestrate, the book that came out now, while you were going to school? Was that part of the program?
Yes. Yeah, it's been through 2 workshops here in Cincinnati. So I wrote it pretty much from start to finish here in Cincinnati. It took me about 8 months to write it, which is crazy for me because I have another novel I've been working on for like 7 years. So
that's what happens.
But that's totally true though for the process. Like some books, it seems like you write them in pieces and you revise and they take for years. And then others, it's like, yeah, I was done within a year and the same calendar year. Wait, how did that happen? You look at the two going, did I do both of these things? And then people ask you, well, what's your style like? Or what's your process like? And you're going, first I've got to find a pattern here. And there isn't one. So
like, yeah, when people say like, how long does it take you to write a book? I'm like, I don't know, somewhere between 20 years and 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
Just depends. Sometimes they just come out fully formed.
Athena, is it Athena who came out fully formed from Zeus's head? Am I doing my mythology right? I don't know my mythology.
It sounds right.
I was just nodding.
I know, me too. I'm like, yes, it was
in
Athena.
The comments. If anybody's telling me I'm wrong, just go ahead and say, Allison,
we'll have corrections
do not know your
corner
mythology
next week.
Never said I did. Corrections. We are not Seth Meyers.
So tell our listeners a little bit about the book.
Yeah.
Mainly just talk about Prague and Buster Keaton. Sure. And drinking. The 3 major themes besides falling down.
Yes. So the book is narrated by a young woman who's also a twin, and she's very close with her twin brother. And their family has a history of having being very susceptible, let's say, to death and injury by falls and falling. So the tradition in their family is that they were cursed by a great-great-grandfather that shoved a man out of a window back in Prague in like the end of the 19th century. So that's what brought about this like family curse. And
which is already an amazing detail because Prague is known for having great architecture and having people thrown out windows.
People falling out. That's their thing.
Yeah, that's what they're known for. And architecture.
Like the half of us even know the word defenestrate is now I can't say it. The defenestration of Prague. That's the only reason any of us would have ever heard the word because it's not something we usually just throw in normal common language. Like, oh, what were you doing? I felt like defenestrating today. Nobody does that.
That's true. Yeah. So, I mean, that was, that's part of how the family curse came about was I knew that I wanted Prague. I knew that I wanted the book to be set in part in Prague. And then Defenestration was sort of the next step toward discovering what Martyr's family history was going to be. So.
And how did Buster Keaton get worked into this? Did it start with you actually liking Buster Keaton, or did you just came up with the fall and then thought who was really good at falling down?
No, I've loved Buster Keaton since I was a kid. So
see, I would have called that because there's no way somebody would have written the book the way you did who doesn't want to dwell on it because the book does dwell on it. So if you're just like, oh yeah, Buster Keaton, you would have mentioned it in passing, but there were multiple like Buster Keaton's all through the book.
Was a religion.
It was a religion. No, the reverence is very transparent. And, yeah, no, he's been a kind of hero of mine. I mean, I grew up watching his films, and my dad was a big fan of the old silent comedians and also like Laurel and Hardy and just like old timey comedy. And so I grew up watching them and then and loving them. And then I got to college, and as a college freshman, I took a film course, and I was so shocked and excited that Keaton was being studied in the classroom, and that these things were artistically appreciated, that I had just been watching as if they were like Looney Tunes, like cartoons.
Right. Yeah.
So I was just like, oh my God, I've been watching art all this time and didn't even recognize it as such.
Is one of your future MFAs going to be an MFA in Buster Keaton? Is that a
Oh,
thing?
yes. I'm working on that one on the side.
Yeah, that one's just like lifelong learning or continuing education. Just a hobby.
Yeah, that's like an online degree.
Yeah. Like maybe it's not from accredited college.
No,
but,
it's like,
but so long as it's not one of those like mail-in ones where you get an online degree where it's printed on dot matrix printer, because that's when you know it's probably not valid.
No, totally. And I have been ordained so that I could perform a friend's wedding ceremony, and it was the same thing. Where you like type in your name and then it's like hit the print button. And
I'm a minister now.
And then,
Holy man.
All right, who needs to get baptized?
I would just be baptizing people on the street, just like random people.
Anybody need me to preside over a funeral?
With like a spray bottle of water.
No,
you can't do that. No. That's just for exorcisms. Be killed.
Oh, holy water. Yeah.
It works. It's all good. Renee, are you a twin?
No, I have an older sister.
Okay.
Just 6.5 years older than me.
Well, and I just wanted
I love
to
getting
clarify.
that question, though. I'm always flattered by it because it means that I wrote convincingly about twinnedness.
Twinning?
No,
Twinning?
Twinning is weighing. No, but I mean, it's one of those things where twins have this particular place in literature and especially pop culture. You go, oh, it's a boy and a girl twin, and they're close. And I just have to clarify, they're not Lannister close, guys. That's not what happens.
Thank you.
So.
Yes.
Yeah. It is not a book about twincest. People who might be tuning in late. Defenestrate does not have twins who have sex with each other.
That's not what that means.
Correct.
I know it sounds like a dirty word, but it is not.
Yeah, if they don't know what it means, and all of a sudden we're just like, and the twins are real close. They're like, ooh, I want to buy this porny book that has like.
Renee's like, I'll take the sales. Just let them believe it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make them add that to like the dust jacket copy, or just like, yeah.
Perfect.
You, if that's what you're looking for. So
I will say, as I was reading it, I had to keep reminding myself that it was fiction because I just kept going right to like, oh, it's a memoir. It's definitely her memoir.
She does have a twin, Jen.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, a lot of people have had the same experience as you, that they're just sort of like, I'm reading someone's life. But you know, the true answer to that is that it is my life and also fiction, but there's a lot of nonfiction in there too. So
like the brother, and
yes,
your family doesn't have a curse of falling down, probably not.
Falling curse. No.
Do you have a family curse of any kind?
We didn't address whether or not the Branum family is cursed in any particular form. Go on.
Let's see, what are we cursed with? Like bad eyesight.
Yeah, that counts.
Same.
Yeah. No, I have it. I'm wearing contacts, but yeah.
I should. Then I would be dealing with a stupid ring light.
I can't see anything without them. So
same.
I'm gonna be, one of the first to go in the apocalypse when like my eyes dry out, and then.
I'm sorry to laugh.
Save some glasses now, because the apocalypse or Twilight Zone episodes are not times when you want to be out of glasses.
No, absolutely. Yeah, but that guy needed reading glasses in the Twilight Zone. Like, surely he could have sort of groped his way to like a Dollar General.
You'd think, but he wanted to sit and cry.
Things were in the 50s, though. Maybe they didn't sell reading.
They didn't sell reading glasses.
And I don't know what reading glasses. I don't know if they're as specific as my prescription would be. So that wouldn't help me. But I guess for him, he just needed.
He could maybe get a magnifying glass, though,
right? Or just grope his way to his optometrist.
Renee, you got to stop saying grope.
No,
I know.
Like, this is not a porn book. It's
not that porny twin book.
I heard
or is it?
At that time, and I was like, yeah.
But yeah, it's a little better.
Feel his way.
A little bit.
Stumbles good.
Stumble through.
Yeah.
And hey, back to being drunk again.
Yes.
All through Prague.
All through Prague. Yeah, I'm telling you, you brought back really good memories of, because I was in Prague in winter and it was so cold, and every time we got cold, we were like, we would just wander the streets and just stop in a bar and be like, well, we need whiskey to warm us up. And then we would drink and then go back to the streets and just be like, oh gosh, it's freezing. Let's go into another bar.
Well, I'll tell you that that New Year's Eve scene where they're drunk on the bridge is based on
Yes.
true events.
Okay, who got yelled at to get down and stop being stupid?
That was me.
Okay.
Was singing the Star Spangled Banner real?
Because they thought it was 4th of July.
It was.
Americans. Thank you for being the drunk, ugly American.
I will tell you that when I was in Prague, I was there for, a little over a year. I was very underpaid as a teacher of English as a second language.
You weren't a cat squeezer?
Cat squeezer?
A cat squeezer.
Because it's in your book. The cat who can't pee. You have to squeeze him.
Oh God. I was like, is this some term that I need to know about?
Yeah, it's a literary term.
I don't know what the term would be for someone who takes a cat that cannot pee.
Squeezer. Yes.
It.
Yes, no, also based in reality.
Yeah, I kind of figured.
The cat's real name is Cooch, though, and I had to change it.
Oh, thank you for changing that.
Yeah, I had to change it. I think I changed it to Diego. It's an adorable cat name, I think. But yes, so that's true. And getting up on the plinth is the right word, and posing.
It is right. It is the right word.
And
what about the wishes?
The wishes, yeah. The wishes, yes. The wishes are real. I mean, I didn't wish for like my drunk brother to have a better life because
you don't have a brother, so that would have been really. How drunk were you if you're?
I wish I had a twin, and I wish he was sad, and I could wish him to have a better life.
I think I was applying for grad school then, so I think I wished to get into a MFA program.
Your wishes came true.
Sure did. Sure.
Dang it, I need to go to Prague.
You need to go to Prague.
You need to go to Prague.
Charles Bridge. You find the cross with the 5 stars. Put your hands on it.
My hands are small though. I don't think I could do it.
Just start doing like finger yoga now.
I think it's not as big as you think it is. I don't think it's really a hard stretch.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you can do it.
Well, you described it like you have to kind of stretch for it and want it. So I figured my little
really
hands.
My hands are huge. So like
so it was fine for you. You're like,
yeah.
It's like it was so easy with my giant hands.
It was like playing a piano, It just
hands too small for that.
Mine too.
For playing the piano?
Yeah.
Or coordinated enough either. I played clarinet. The keys are very close together. This is easy versus like that.
Do you still play?
Oh no. But I am bummed though, because my eldest daughter just started playing an instrument for school this year, and she said she was gonna pick clarinet. So I'm like, oh good, I can show you. And she comes home with a flute. I'm like, I can't even make a noise on that. Go back and come back with a proper woodwind with a reed.
Proper woodwind.
Yeah. Proper woodwind.
Hey, how is a flute a woodwind? It's made of metal and it doesn't have a reed.
All right, I'm gonna turn this table lamp on. It's gonna
you're getting dark.
It's gonna change. It's gonna change everything.
But yeah, I feel like I'm casting.
And at last,
Okay. There we go.
So you are collecting MFAs, getting a PhD. What is your writing process like? Like you sound so smart that I always think, oh my gosh, please teach me how to write something that's so I'm not like so haphazard and crazy. Are you a pantser? Do you know what's going on in your book when you're writing it?
No, never. Almost never. I mean, I sort of know generally like where things are going. But like, for example, I don't know, I guess this is kind of a spoiler alert, but like, I didn't know, I'll just say like the letter that sort of is a turning point in the book.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really know when I started writing the book that was going to end up being a turning point. So that was a surprise to me. I was sort of like, okay, yeah.
Then you sound kind of like I could like to call myself, instead of just a pantser, because that just sounds sad. But I'm a discovery flashlight writer, where you discover these things as you go. And I admire people who can sit and come up with an entire book concept, including these important points, from nothing. For me, I don't get to the points until the book kind of leads me there, and it's like, oh, aha. And if you would have had that idea from the start, you'd be okay, maybe a plantser, but the fact that you didn't figure that out until you kind of came up to it, here's your flashlight. You're part of the club.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. What did you say?
It's the Discovery flashlight writer, because you can only kind of see as far ahead as your flashlight beam goes.
I'm gonna steal that.
Yeah, definitely use it. I didn't come up with it. It's not a copyrighted term or anything like that. I like that because it sounds like, yes, I'm discovering the story as I go.
Instead of just saying, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just banging on the keyboard like a monkey, hoping that Hamlet comes out.
Yes. Yeah. I posted a GIF today where they're like, what's your writing plot process? And mine says, I can novel, because that's kind of how I feel half the time. But it's like the novel happens, but it doesn't come before I'm sitting down and making the novel occur. It doesn't come in a bullet point that I then flash out.
No. I don't do the outlines or anything. I've never done that. But
well, and we know people who do, and then throw the outline out halfway, or change the starting point, or change who the killer is in a murder mystery. And it's like, then what was the point of any of that? But it's all part of the process because everybody has a different one.
Yes.
Did they work on you with that in any of your 17 MFAs?
Oh gosh, it's so weird to me that like very little is really talked about in terms of novel structure. We're all like,
isn't that why you were there?
I feel like they should have taught you that in Iowa.
But you know what though? I will say though, having gone through law school and then you take the bar, because the bar is what teaches you how to practice specific to your state. So it's like, well, what was law school? I don't know, but it didn't have anything to do with passing the bar later.
Yeah. No, when I got to the PhD here, there was a novel workshop being offered. And that was like mind blowing. I was like, wow, there's all this, all this planning. Everyone's doing different things, But planning, man, just all kinds of planning. But before that, I was pretty much like at Iowa, I just wrote long short stories. They were like 50 pages long. That was my whole thing.
50 pages is really long. What's the word count of 50 pages? Is that even a short story anymore? Or is that like a
novelette?
It's a weird, creepy no man's land.
Yeah.
Story and a novella.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think what the bottom line is for a novella. Like what's the minimum for a novella?
Well, when I think novella, I think 80 pages, but I think,
So you were still far short of that.
Yeah.
But way too long for a short story for most places, because they're like, this is way too.
You're like, that's what I did. That was my trademark.
That's what I was doing. Yeah.
Like, how can I publish this?
I was in a long short story for many years. And then they started getting a little bit shorter. They were like 30 pages for a while. I don't think I've really got them shorter than 30.
Well, the structure of this book, I've only, I think, read another book that I would say compared to it, and that was a friend of ours, Chella Corrington's Tom and Adela Portrait of Marriage, or no, it's Adela and Tom. And it's that, like, it's almost like flash fiction novella. So anybody who is picking this book up, expect these like little chunks, these little vignettes, these little scenes, and then they add up to this story. But it's not like chapter 1, chapter 2. That's not the structure. What made you decide to go that way with it?
With the vignettes?
Yeah, to do the vignettes instead of like a more traditional structure or a more traditional linear narrative.
Yeah, I've really had this long-standing love affair with vignettes. Not as long as with Buster Keaton, but
first love Buster Keaton, second love vignettes.
Well, if you grew up if you grew up watching Buster Keaton, I don't think like as a 7-year-old you're like, ooh, and vignettes. Vignettes would be like, is that red vines? Vignettes? No,
I mean, I guess you could make an argument that some Keaton is sort of vignette-y, but I wasn't thinking on that level. You're right. But no, so I have always been kind of a prose stylist hound, like I love like dense descriptive prose. I love like flowery language and gorgeous language.
I introduce you to Jen's writing.
I know. I'm like,
she's over there just going,
a woman after my own heart.
Meow. Yes.
Did you just say meow?
I did. I meowed. I was that happy.
Somewhere your dog's like,
wonderful. So yeah, no. What I found years ago was that the vignette was a nice container for all my lyricism, because when you break it up, like if you have a really dense lyrical passage and it's like it's the whole page, it's sort of it's different than when it has a sort of little frame around it when it has like a container.
Mm-hmm.
So I started writing vignettes as sort of like a management tool for my lyricism. And then I kind of started using them more structurally, where they actually like kind of arise from the telling. And I feel like Marta is sort of a scattered narrator. And so it really does serve the purpose of the narrative to have her kind of tell it in this fragmented way,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where she's sort of turning toward one subject and then turning toward another. And we're moving between two timelines. So it makes that a little less unwieldy too, I think. But
yeah, I really liked that. I love
thank you.
Love non-linear storytelling. I know Allison does too. Like, we're just like, oh, just give me a story that's told completely out of order. Thank you. Because I think that is how our brains work.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
I mean, this is how this conversation's been working. We're like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And then frog. And then I was drunk. And then and then falling
We
downstairs.
started and I was singing Muppet Chickens.
Yep.
No, yeah. We started out with
Kavuk Kavuk.
Yeah.
One of these days, when our producer tells us we're going live, we will be quiet today.
No,
it's like never happened.
I was
Why does he even warn us?
Gonzo, like
Yeah.
When we interviewed James Rollins, and this is my favorite one when we went live, I was saying anal glands. Because we were talking about, well, not in like my what I would consider sexy voice.
No, you really weren't.
No, we were talking about dogs, and I said that, and like click, we went live, and I'm like blah blah blah. I'm like, really?
Were you?
He's a veterinarian.
The worst smell in the entire
No, just
anal gland of the dog.
Rollins is a veterinarian, so like we were talking about the changes of his career because
and I said, oh, like I bet you missed the anal glands.
Yeah,
and he's like, no,
why are we talking about it again? I really don't know. But getting back to Renee's book and talking about how I do love that the structure and the narrative have this beautiful relationship that they work together, because I think sometimes we kind of try to shove the story into whatever structure we're told needs to work. And I like that you had the freedom to go ahead and say, no, we're not going to do a linear story, or we're not going to do normal, what's a normal chapter length? I see it all the time on Twitter. Authors, what's your chapter length? And I'm just like, what kind of a question is that? And why does it matter? Because these are short vignettes. Some of them were several pages. Some of them were only a paragraph long. They were each as long as they needed to be.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of why I have this love affair with the vignette. There's so much flexibility. I never feel like I'm, like where you're writing a book with every chapter has 10 pages. And then, you find yourself straining to get to 10, or you're trying to cut it back from 12 or whatever, So yeah, I like the vignette for that reason too.
Yeah, it flowed very naturally.
Well, and otherwise you also end up, if you're trying to be too artificial with it, what it ends up feeling like is back before we had things like Netflix and Amazon Prime and storytellers could be a little bit more flexible with how long the shows were. You would watch an episode of something and you could tell something was in there, just padding it to get to the right length with commercial breaks. We aren't writing for, syndicated TV. We can do whatever the story needs and make it fit naturally for that versus sort of some kind of artificial constraint because, our airtime is this many minutes plus commercials from our sponsors.
Totally. Yeah, no. Now I'm counting my lucky stars that I'm not writing for syndicated television.
No syndicated television. I like it, but still.
No, I love it. I love it too. And I've played games where I'm like, oh, I could write for TV, but then that makes me think like, probably not.
They're like, Renee, this episode is
a script for this episode. It is one paragraph long.
Right, exactly.
And it takes place in Prague, and it stars Buster Keaton, and they're going to be like, but this is a Star Trek show or whatever.
I love the show you're describing.
I'd at least try at least for one episode. I don't know if I'd get a whole new streaming service for that, but I didn't do it for the new Star Trek either.
You should watch for 2 because sometimes the pilot isn't always reliable.
Right.
That's true.
Pilot and then +1. That's my flaw.
That's my
I like that. That's a smart way.
When you wrote Defenestrate, it was it existed. Did you have a hard time finding an agent for it because it is kind of non-traditional? I always wonder about this with like the literary authors that we talk to, and I know Allison and I are like in the literary zone. We border on the literary
right out.
something.
You know, my agent has been with me for a while, long before I had a book. I sent her those 50-page short stories, and she was like,
She find you for those?
yeah, like years ago. And she was like, there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to sell these, but I think you've got good things in your brain.
I love
An
that.
agent signed you with things that she liked but couldn't sell.
Yes. And
That I need to start like this, just a roster of unusual agent stories, because that's
my guardian
probably
angel.
the craziest. Yes.
Yeah, no, she's my guardian angel, and she like knew, you know, I had the smarts and I had the drive, and she like scooped me up, and she was like, write you know, when you've got
Write a book.
Yeah, she's like,
Stop with this and go over there and write a book.
Yeah. And she's like, when you've got a novel, then, you know, we'll do things with it. And I was like, great.
Do things.
But I've been working on that novel I mentioned earlier for years, and it wasn't finished yet, and it still isn't. But
are you back to working on it, or are you working on something else?
I am working on it now. For my dissertation, I am going to produce a draft of it, come hell or high water. So,
okay, so is the dissertation then, is that in fiction or nonfiction? Because you said it's a novel, so it means fiction. Okay.
Yeah, in fiction. Yeah.
What was the emphasis for the nonfiction one? What did you have to do to earn the MFA for that?
I wrote a collection of essays for my thesis for that one. And you know what? I had no experience writing nonfiction when I got into that program. It was
anyway.
It was a weird fluke. Well, it wasn't a fluke, but it was fate.
You wished for it, and it ended up happening.
I wished for it on a 5.
That was one of these wishes.
Cross. Yeah. Yes, I did. I was like, I just wanted to live in Montana. So any way you can get me there.
Why did you want to live in Montana exactly? I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard somebody say, I want to live in Montana.
Well, okay, there are 3 months out of the year when Montana is the best place to live in the world, but the rest of the year it sucks.
So why did you want to go?
No, my best friend's brother, also a writer, Andrew Martin, and I'll plug his book Early Work. It's very good. He went through the program in Montana and raved about it. And one of my favorite poets in the world, Joanna Klink, was teaching there. And so when I was applying, I was actually working on poetry. I was living in New Orleans, walking dogs for a living, and I was writing a lot of poems.
That's like my dream life right there.
Oh my God. My favorite job I've ever had was walking dogs. Like I think all the time about just being like, forget this academic stuff. Let's go walk dogs and just write in our free time.
Author, dog walker. I actually think those two could work.
Those two can work really well.
Yeah, seriously. So, you know, next time I talk to you guys, that could be my reality.
I know. We'll be like, where are you living now? And you'll be like, I'm a dog walker.
Wherever the dogs are. So, but yeah, so I was writing
where the dogs are.
I mean, and there are dogs everywhere. So, you know, perfect.
Options limitless.
Totally. And New Orleans was a great place to do it. You know, it was like hot and the weather was kind of like unpredictable, but like I really got to know the city just by like, you know, strutting around with these adorable, well, they weren't all adorable, but like, you know.
Let's not glamorize these mutts.
Yeah.
Some dogs are downright homely.
I don't want to, you know.
I'm picturing one of them, instead of regular collar, has like the beads wrapped around because it was getting drunk.
Right. Like a Mardi Gras dog.
Mardi Gras.
Yeah. A Mardi dog.
They were like flashing.
Mm-hmm. You know, it was a French bulldog.
Yeah.
Had to be.
Totally. Yes. But no, to answer your question about getting to Montana. So I was writing a lot of poetry and I started applying to MFA programs in poetry. But the thing about Montana's program is that you can actually apply to 2 genres for the price of 1 application fee. Oh, heck yes. I am going to, like, you know,
cover all those bases just in case.
Cover all my bases. And I had just written an essay about lightning. And
you're like, well, this'll do.
That's exactly the sort of thing that gets you into the, you know, the nonfiction.
Lightning?
Gambit is like, yeah, totally.
Like lightning in a jar or just actual lightning?
actual lightning strikes, to be honest with you.
Mm.
So lightning strike survivors is a lot of what the essay is about.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
But I like it from like a horror standpoint.
Yeah,
But
when
like,
she said that hitting people, that went way up in the interest of like, oh, so tell us about these people who got shocked to almost death.
I mean, there's some crazy stories. The one that I was obsessed with for a while was like there was a woman who was pregnant and her boyfriend, and they were holding hands and they were watching like a fireworks display. It was the 4th of July, I believe. And they were struck. They were holding hands. So like the current was,
That's true.
And they all survived and the baby survived.
That baby better have
is
superpowers.
And that baby
exactly. We're like
superpowers. They nicknamed the baby Flash because their last name is Gordon. Yeah, I know. So the baby is Flash Gordon. And like,
Jen, are these your relatives?
I know. I'm like, this is my family curse. I didn't tell it.
It happened in Arizona. Like, it's like crazy. Like, I was like, I didn't even know there was lightning in Arizona.
Is that why you went to Arizona? Were you trying to track these people down?
I was trying to get struck by lightning. But...
Oh, okay.
You're like, I know the perfect ending to my essay.
So, portraits.
I was like holding metallic objects out in the desert. No, but yeah, I was obsessed with this baby growing up with this narrative, right? Where it's like, before you were born, your mom, and
your mom
that's got to alter your sense of self, right? You've got
that's totally the beginning of a novel somewhere, but something weird is going to that baby. And talk about family curse, hit them all at once.
Right, totally.
Yeah.
Mom, dad, that's baby. Incredible. And she went into premature labor. The baby was
valid.
Yeah. But everyone was okay. And I was deeply, I was like mesmerized by that story. So that was the essay I sent. I actually got into both programs at Montana, but I was waitlisted for funding. And so I left it up to fate and I said, wherever the funding comes through first, if at all, I'm going to go with that genre. So the nonfiction, because that's when you're in your 20s, that's the kind of gambling, where you're just like, wherever the cosmos wants me, I'll go there. So that's how it happened. The funding.
And then other early 20-year-olds are like, I will go where the cosmos are. And that's a very different way.
That's good.
I was never a big Cosmo girl, but I didn't really.
They're too pink.
They're too pink. I didn't really also like ever fall in love with Sex in the City. So I think that's
didn't watch it.
Because you've never watched it. I've seen episodes here and there, but I've never really.
I've watched it, and now I will admit that I watch the new spinoff, the new like reboot of it. It's horrifying, but I watch it while I'm working out, and I'm like so angry about how bad it is.
Like running to like
I'm like pedaling on the bike, and I'm just letting
out your rage.
Yeah. We all have our things.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
Like my hobbies include rage watching Sex in the City.
That's fair.
Yeah, so no, you strike me as like a whiskey, Scotch, bourbon drinker.
She's drinking Manhattan.
I know you're drinking.
Manhattan.
No, but I mean, and because I read the book, and I'm like, oh, she never once said like Cosmo, please. And again, I'm just assuming that this is a memoir.
That their drinking preferences reflect my own. Yes.
Yeah. See, and that got me in trouble though, because when I wrote mine, as Jen said at the beginning, mine are the bourbon books, and so then next thing I know, I'm being asked, "Oh, bourbon? Do you drink?" I had never even tried bourbon when I wrote them because I'm more of like a rum and a vodka girl. Next thing I know, now I'm drinking bourbon all the time, and now I like it. So just be careful. I really like Elijah Craig, but Angel Dunby's pretty good too.
That's very good bang for your buck.
No, they're good. I just will never buy anything ever again that's not a label that's recommended to me by somebody because I still have the bad stuff it's never going away. I'm not drinking that as well.
I feel like once you drink something like Elijah Craig, because it's so good, like it's really hard to go back to like Jim Beam. You're like, oh
no, I'm not even talking Jim Beam. I'm talking like store brand, like Kentucky's Best. And no, it wasn't.
Kentucky's Best.
Yeah, no, that's
a good that's hobo bourbon.
That's the bottle. No, I will drink all of them.
Not all at once, Renee.
Of course not. But the one I do not mess with, and I don't know, I think I just had a bad night, with this whiskey, but I do not mess with Old Crow. I will not.
Oh my gosh.
I
Old
can't.
Crow is the bourbon that I had my alcoholic main character drink in one of my books because
was Adam drinking Old Crow?
he would buy 3 bottles at a time, and it was 3 crows, which was a murder. There was all this symbolism
Oh,
there.
I love that. Oh my God.
I didn't remember which brand of bourbon.
Yeah.
I need to go back and
That,
check.
and that's why I have 3 crows tattooed on my back.
Oh my God.
You're like, it's for my book, not
It's
Three
for my
Old
book.
Crows.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I love it.
Yes. Well, yeah, I think something went awry with me and Old Crow at some point. I don't want to become a snob. Like I will drink Kentucky Tavern and all of those low shelf things. But I can't do Old Crow. No.
Well, and I think, what was it, Jen? You told me we mix what, maple in there, maple syrup, real maple. If you can't get a good one,
Yeah, I've done that.
Just make it sweeter with something else, and it hides a multitude of sins right there.
Yeah. A little bit of maple syrup, a little bit of honey sometimes, or just like make an old fashioned with it. Like put it in a cocktail, and you won't
hide it. More cherries, throw them in. It's all good. Doesn't matter if there shouldn't be cherries in there. Just throw them in.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, now that this has turned into like cocktail hour,
Right.
I hate to say it, we are out of time, Renee.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Renee.
Magical.
Congratulations on your book.
Congratulations. Yes, your book is 1 day old. Everybody who is watching this live or watching us on the replay or listening to it, by Defenestrate. It has an amazingly cool cover, which I know.
I would say bring it closer, because from a distance, that thing looks like a meat cleaver, and it is not.
There's a person
Sitting out a window
who might fall out that window at any moment.
The person seated in a window. Yeah.
It is lovely. So thank you again, Renee, for being here. Thank you, Allison. Thank you to Pam and Roman and everybody at the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. This has been a copywritten podcast, and stay tuned next week when we have author Gregory Phillips.